So today we are going to work on something a little bit different. Of course, we are working on a controller as we do more often on this channel, but this is going to be a little bit different of a repair. And not really a repair, it's maybe more a modification I want to make. So for context, this is a PlayStation 1 controller obviously, and it's a Model H controller, I'm pretty sure. We look on the back, we can see the H. Quite a few different revisions of the PlayStation 1 controller. And I've had this for a very long time. I think back when I started repairing electronics and mostly controllers back in 2020, I was mostly buying older controllers, so PlayStation 1 and 2. So this is from back then, which is 6 years ago at this point. It's unbelievable how fast the time flies. And I've actually made some notes from back then. Not sure what's on the back here. Oh, I wrote it's down for parts. And the reason I wrote it down for parts is because I said the thumbsticks are no good. When I am referring to the thumbsticks, I have them all right here. I'm specifically talking about this model of thumbstick, and we can see if we look in here, it's quite thin. So if I'm grabbing the actual motherboard, we can see that these two parts are compatible. And if you look at the stick from this side, you can see it's a quite a thin pin where the thumbstick is supposed to sit in, and it's a little bit wider on the end, which you can see the controller has the same mold as well. So this is a perfect fit. You can install this, you hear the click, and this is into place. Fortunately, the second thumbstick was completely obliterated, which means that I mean, I threw it away a long time ago, but I'm pretty sure that the rubber part of the thumbstick was completely torn off, so I could not really revive it. So I think at the time I went to AliExpress and I bought some third-party sticks in the hopes that it would fit, and I still have them actually. Here is one of these thumbsticks, and if we compare them to the original one, you can already see the difference, that it's definitely not the same. And yeah, this will actually not fit at all. So if we angle it like this, I will zoom it in a little bit. You will see that because this is much more wide on the end, it will not go in here. Of course, you could modify this, but I don't really want to spend the time. And of course, there's also a risk that the thumbstick will not actually work with the analog stick, since you can look at this thumbstick and see that there is a cutout on this side and I think on the other side as well, so that the thumbstick can maneuver over the potentiometer and basically not touch the analog stick. And this of course does not have that, so in my opinion that's maybe too many modifications to make. So recently I was trying to declutter my working space a little bit, and I came across the PlayStation controller again. And then I thought to myself, maybe instead of using a third-party stick from AliExpress, I can maybe use this one. So you might think this is a PlayStation 2 stick, but if we turn it around, you can see this is black plastic, and that indicates that this is for my PlayStation 1 controller. I mean, I know that it is for my PlayStation 1 controller since I actually removed it from a PlayStation 1 controller which was faulty. I don't really remember the fault. I think it may be one where I accidentally fried the motherboard. I think some power got sent the wrong way and a diode desoldered itself. So I lost the diode and I did not really want to do the board repairs at the time. So I've just completely written that off. And yeah, since the board did not have a long life, so it's quite a young motherboard in that sense that it does not use much. I thought that makes for the perfect analog sticks replacements for this one. So I can actually use this one to put them on here, and that way of course we can use modern thumbsticks. I could even use PlayStation 3 thumbsticks if I wanted to, or from the 360. There's nothing actually wrong with these thumbsticks, but I just cannot get it to work because it's very difficult to get parts for these controllers, of course, especially for the PlayStation 1 controllers. Its parts can vary quite a lot. Of course, there are so many revisions, and it's Sony first console, so they did not all have it figured out yet. So yeah, there's lots of revisions of motherboards, of controller variations, of analog sticks. So it's not all as easily interchangeable as with the PlayStation 2 controllers. Of course, you have your variations, but it's a little bit more manageable in my opinion. So it might be a little bit complicated, but basically the only thing we need to do is we need to desolder these ones, reinstall these ones with the pins flat, and then we need to run the wires to the correct places. So we need to run the 5 volt to the 5 volt right here. And we could even only run one 5-volt and one ground if we want to. I'm a little bit undecided on that. I think one wire should be enough, but yeah, we will see. So for now, the first step is that we are going to remove these analog sticks. And of course, I will not throw them out since I know that they actually work, even if they probably had the best times and are in pretty rough condition, maybe a little bit. There's definitely a lot of dirt in here, but you know, they work, so there's not really a reason to actually get rid of it. You do not really see these sticks anymore, so I don't just want to throw them out. And of course, since this is a PlayStation 1 motherboard, and yeah, you can see it's a single layer motherboard, we will use the soldering iron, but at a lower temperature. I will use 330 Celsius, which should be plenty to actually get the solder out. Of course, since this is a PlayStation 1 controller, was made in the 90s, of course, so it should have leaded solder on it, which of course makes the removal of the sticks easier in comparison with modern consoles. Let's get all of this crap out of the way. We don't need that right now. At least at the time I cleaned everything, so if this is successful, we can just put it together and it should be working. Put the sticks to the side, and then we can start soldering under the microscope. So the first thing we want to do right here is we want to add some fresh solder to the solder already on the board, since obviously it is quite old at this point. So to make removal easier, it's actually beneficial to add some solder. In this case, we add leaded solder, of course. Okay, I think you can see what has happened here. So I am actually soldering at 330 Celsius, but you can see that this pad got ripped off basically, possibly due to too much heat. So I am going to turn that down a bit, maybe to 315 Celsius. And I will try to use my desoldering pump instead of using the solder rig. I think maybe it's just demanding too much heat from the motherboard. So hopefully that will be more successful, so we can work a little bit quicker. I'm looking at this right now. I'm not sure if this has now been ripped off or if this is just very not so shiny soldering pad. I guess we will find that out later, but yeah, definitely sucks a little bit with these older controllers, of course, that it is relatively easy to get loose solder pads. Even this is not really a nice method right now. So I will go back to the solder rig, see if the lower temperature can help me out a little bit. So I think we have all the solder pads desoldered. So now we are on the phone camera and we can see if we can actually pull this out. It should actually be possible on these earlier controllers. It's not a lot keeping this into the board. Of course, you need to be careful. It's actually easy to break the PCB on these older controllers, but I think we've got it. So here you can also see the four legs, and yeah, you see the black square in the middle. That should be the button which is responsible to receive the button presses. Although unfortunately you cannot really hear it, but yeah, that's the design of these older analog sticks. So we will put it to the side and I will keep it around. Hopefully it can be used one day. And now I will be doing the same for the other stick, and then I will be back with you to install the new analog sticks. Alright, so we have removed both the analog sticks. Here they are. So now we need to reinstall the new ones, obviously. And yeah, here you can see. So here's the bit pad, the only bit pad, I think. And I think for the rest, all the solder has survived somehow. So I think at least turning it down the temperature a bit more has helped to save those connections. So I think we can reinstall these ones next. So we will be reinstalling both the analog sticks like this. Of course, the actual ground legs will not actually play a role here, since they do not connect, but luckily the potentiometers have a ground at least, so that should not really be a problem. And now that I think about it, I think before we are actually going to reinstall them, I will need to run some wires first. I think that was the idea. So here we are looking at the upside of the controller. So I will also flip the paper like this. So here is the positive side of the button, here's the negative side, and the idea is that we connect them with a wire to either side. And I could definitely utilize these holes right here to run the wire, so it looks a little bit cleaner. And of course I can run shorter wires, which is also beneficial. Obviously, the less wire we need to run, the better. So to keep it simple, I will be using red wire for the 5-volt line, and then for the ground we will actually run black wire. So it should be nice and consistent. And again, I will at least do one on camera, the other one can be done off camera to keep the video time a little bit down. So if you remember correctly, the red side is right here. Here is the actual pins of the where the button was located. So we want to run a wire through here at least. Then we can basically let it rest like this. And I think we should be able to run it under the analog stick. Then we do the same right here, obviously. Of course, this is way too long, but we can always cut off the excess. So the idea is, if we install this right now, that should actually work out. But of course, it's also a first time for me that I am trying this, so the results are never guaranteed. Just hope the wires are not too thick to prevent a nice install of these analogs. So the analog is into place, but it's floating a little bit, which could be caused by the actual wire. I will try and pull them to the side a little bit. Definitely should be able to go down a little bit more, even with the wire under there. I will try and pull the red wire from under here. And we can run them like the black one. Maybe a little bit like that. Then we can do the same right here, but of course it needs to sit correctly. I will actually not put the wires in right here and just install this stick, so I can see if it is installed somewhat properly. So that is also installed, I think. It seems like it can go a little bit further, but for some reason it doesn't really want to. The pins are definitely through there. And yeah, if you compare it, it's not that visible actually. But they look similar to me if we look at the top side at least. I think we can consider this flush with the board. It's definitely not off that much. Nah, it's not really visible, but if I look at it with the eye from the side, then it seems to approach a pretty similar install. So they seem pretty equal in how they are installed in the board, which means I will consider this okay and I can reinstall this one. And if we really screw up, we can always redo it, of course. So that is this analog stick installed. Before I move on, I think it's important that we at least do something with the ground legs. Of course, they are way smaller than the original plastic ones. So I don't really actually want to only keep the analog stick down on the potentiometers. The ground legs need help support to keep the stick in the correct place. So I will actually push them flat with the board. Twisting will not do much since the hole is simply too big, so it's not actually going to do anything. So I think this is the best option to help out a little bit. Sometimes a little bit difficult to reach. We don't want to damage the actual board, of course, which, as I say it, I actually did that. Not that much of a big deal, luckily. It's maybe the only downside of doing this. But yeah, that of course was the design at the time, and we can't really change that. Just want to be careful when trying to push this down. Don't want to actually damage the motherboard, which is definitely achievable with how thin this motherboard is. Need to have some patience. Yeah, there we go. I'll take that. So you'll notice that where I put the wire to, I did not actually solder that, of course. We do not want to melt the wire, of course. So I guess that answers my question that we are only going to use one pad of each side. Which, if you look at the other side, it might be wise for me to actually pull the wires on the top side and then solder them on the underside, or the bottom side. So first of all, I need to cut this to size, or in this case, for the red one, I can actually strip a little bit more wire. So if we look at the red wire. We'll actually center it a bit more. If we look at the red wire, we will only need this part to actually solder on. I guess I will actually cut it. Attempt to strip the wire. Try and keep a tweezer down to keep it into place. Hopefully that will work out. It kinda did, but it's a little bit too small, I think. So I can work with that, but I just want a little bit more wire. I just want a secure connection. So I will go for the X-Acto knife route, I guess. Tweezer into place, and then attempt to expose a little bit more wire. It kinda did, but I also lost part of the wire. I guess I will try this one more time. Yeah, that works actually. So that's great news. Then we can thin this wire and then we can reinstall that. Of course, while we are at it, we will do the same thing on the other side. And that worked out fine. So we have stripped both of the wires. Before we do anything else, I will turn on the fume extractor again and I will actually tin them with a little bit of fresh solder. Should actually help to make a connection with the motherboard. So that is both the wires tinned, and I think we can actually reinstall them. I might need to angle them a little bit. Like that. So it is actually able to make a connection. Might need to turn around the motherboard for the black wire. Let's do this one first. Of course, we do not want to burn the black wire in the process. I will move it out of the way temporarily. I think we can make a better connection on that. I think it's the best it's going to be. Then I will turn around the motherboard. So we should be able to angle this into place. I think it's going to sit like that. Should not be a big deal. It might be a little bit problematic, actually, since these plastic holes you see here, it's actually where the back plastic, a little bit close, but yeah, this is where the plastic of this backside is going to be. So maybe we get away with it right here, just about. We angle it a little bit like that. I think that should be okay actually. But for this side we need to avoid this. So I'll try and keep this straight right here. Now I'll try and turn the exposed wire a little bit, like a U-turn, so we can avoid burning the plastic. So I think it's going to sit like that basically. So we put down some flux, then hopefully we can get it soldered nicely. I think that is seated nicely. So I will give this a quick clean up, then we can look at it under the microscope. And you can see these are pretty solid connections, even if I say so myself. So at least the joint is fully filled, and if I touch this with a pair of tweezers, or if I look at the wire, then it is a consistent connection with this solder pad. So I don't think we need to worry about that going anywhere. But then we can of course move on to the other side. And if you remember, of course, then the front two pins right here are for the positive, and then the back ones are for the negative. So yeah, it's definitely for sure that the back ones are going to be a little bit more challenging to solder. Technically, if it's really difficult, I guess we could utilize the actual solder body. Actually, we can't. Never mind. Of course, it's not connected to anything. So yeah, we will need to do with the pins right here. Of course, first we need to actually cut it to size. Maybe a little bit too much still. Maybe it's a little bit too short now. But should be able to get this to work a little bit. Since I think I regret actually cutting it a bit too short. I will see if I can expose it this way. Not really recommended, of course. But of course, I would not love to redo that whole thing again. So I hope I can get this to work. Okay, so I think we got it exposed. So I will attempt and thin the wire. Yep, I think we got that. So now, of course, the tricky part is where we need to angle it down a bit. And of course, we need to install it. Might be wise to also maybe put some solder on the pin where we want to get the wire on. Might make it a little bit easier. So I think that we got that. It's definitely a little bit difficult to see for you guys, but unfortunately, can't really do anything about that. So we are under the microscope and we want to, of course, get this wire connected like this, which may mean I need to solder left-handed, which I don't know how that's going to go, but I will give it a try. At least, yeah, this might be very tricky. My iron length is not long enough, unfortunately. I think we actually did it, surprisingly enough, but I'm happy that we were able to make that connection. I think it is pretty solid. Of course, the plastics were burned, unfortunately. Take the tweezers. You can see that we can move the wire, and if I tug on the wire, it's not going anywhere. So I think we should be content with that. And then we can move on to this side. And I think I need to be wise and actually just connect it to this side from right here. And then you should just be able to connect it to this side, which I think we can cut it right there. Then we can strip the wire like that. Then we need to reinstall this into its place. Fortunately, that happens more often than not with this board holder. This served me well for years at this point, but yeah, it's a little bit fragile. It has become a little bit fragile. And now, of course, rinse and repeat as with the other wire. So I think we should make a little angle in the wire. So that is connected. I cannot tell if it is hanging on the thread or if it is properly connected. If I go under it with my tweezer, it is absolutely sturdy and solid. So I definitely believe that the connection is good enough like this, which means that we have officially soldered one side of the analog stick. And I think it might be interesting to actually measure if the connections go where they are supposed to go. So we might as well do that right now. We will start with the wet wire. But yeah, one probe is on the underside, as you can see. That's this one. We indeed have a connection. And if you go to the black solder pad on the bottom side, and right here it was, we also have a connection. So at least the connections go where we want them to go. Now, of course, the big moment of truth is if we press this button, does it actually also get a beep? Since then we know that the button is working. The controller, if I can get my probes on, a little bit tricky always. So you need to hold these ones with one hand, then the other hand is supposed to push them. And we can see, if I keep talking, we can hear that the actual button is working. So we did the job right, I think. Yeah, I'm happy with that. That I thought out actually worked. So yeah, pretty cool. So I will take care of this analog stick and then we will go and test the controller. So we are done with the installment of the controller. You can see the controller is not assembled yet. I wanted to show you how this motherboard piece is going to go into the motherboard. So basically it's going to sit like this. It will be held in with a screw right here. But if we look on this side, hopefully you can see it. You can see that the analog stick sits flush against the board or into the front case of the controller. It does make for a nice fit. Also for the wires, it's all tucked on under the motherboard, so it's not sticking out. It should not be pierced through or anything. And yeah, I think the only thing I'm a little bit worried about is that maybe I cut it a little bit too close with these holes, but It is looking okay, so I hope that will be good enough. So I will finish up the assembly and then we can actually test it. So here's the controller fully back together. I just want to get a bit of a close up before we are going to test it. I've actually used third-party PlayStation 2 sticks for this, which I have right here. You can see they are basically the same. Yeah, they fit really nicely with the PlayStation 1 controller. So I'm pretty sure that the PlayStation 1 controller actually uses grayish rubber sticks. But I think this fits really well aesthetically, so I am happy with that. And you can see that we have no issues with the leverage in comparison to the front casing, so it all fits really nicely, and yeah, the sticks feel nice and smooth. And of course, if you click, you can hear that the L3R3 are working. And now it is actually time to test it on the PlayStation. Very curious how it's going to perform. So I already apologize for the microphone quality. This is recorded directly from my phone. But as you can see, the controller is in frame now, and the light is turned on, or I turn it on, and that's a good sign. That means there's power into the board and nothing should be shorted. The D-pad is working, except the right D-pad is not working, but that could be due to the rubber pad. And unfortunately, I am not getting anything from the analogs, which I did not expect that, since we did actually solder the potentiometers and that should be working. But just to be sure, we will go into freescape to see if it does anything in game. I will just check if the controller works without the analogs engaged. I think that might be a good idea to see what's going on with the analog sticks. And now we can see, hopefully, that the right is working and the left is working. The rumble is also working. So I'm going to unplug and replug the controller. I'm going to engage the analog. Yeah, it is just going in bounds. I can manipulate with the left analog or with the left D-pad, but this is obviously not working as intended, so we will need to go back to the blue mat and see what is going on. So we are back at the blue mat, and I actually did some probing around with my multimeter in resistance mode and basically trying to figure out if there is a difference in the value of the resistor between these ones and the ones which are on this analog stick. And yeah, the answer is a little bit, but it doesn't seem to be significant. So I'm pretty sure the individual reading, the individual reading of these sticks are basically 9K per resistor, but when installed, it basically drops down to like 4K, I think. So basically the resistors are all connected and possibly in parallel, don't quote me on that. But basically the value does change whether it's in circuit or out of circuit. So I want to try that for these ones as well. So I took a similar stick, also from the PlayStation, and I took measurements in the outer circuit, and it does seem that it might be in parallel, but I think the resistance on these tensiometers is like 10K. In circuit, it's a little bit lower, maybe around 5K. It's not really significant, is what I found. I could not really find anything wrong there. Also, one thing to mention regarding the L2R3 is that I accidentally misconnected the second stick I did. So I actually put them on the same pin, but of course I should have put them on a different one. So I actually corrected that. And now it works as intended, but of course, yeah, the sticks are still not really working as they should. So I'm not really sure where to take it from here. So I think the only thing I want to try is to get rid of the potentiometer on these sticks and then instead install the potentiometers of these sticks, since, well, of course, everything in here is mechanical. So maybe the analog stick will start working if I just put the original ones back in, since like I said, there's nothing actually wrong with these sticks. Just the thumbsticks, which were basically the problem here. So I will try that. Then I will be back with you to actually test it. I'm not actually going to show the whole process, since I think this video is already a little bit too long. So I did actually install the potentiometers of the old analog stick. I will show you right now. You can see them right here. And yeah, I tested it real quick, and it's basically the same problem as with the other potentiometers, where the character is just spinning around. So yeah, unfortunately, this did not solve the problem. And I think the soldering is actually perfectly fine. This is a little damage which was always there, so unfortunately we can't help that. It actually shares the pad where it is damaged, and yeah, the solder joint right here, they share the pad, so it's not shorting together or anything, so that can't really be a problem. And yeah, it kind of means I am out of options, and I think I will need to end it here, which is really disappointing. I really expected this to actually work, but yeah, for some reason it does not like the potentiometer of this controller, and yeah, also not the ones of the original stick. So yeah, I'm not really sure what to try next. So I will actually call it here with this controller, which unfortunately this is a no fix, and well, I guess I will need to keep this controller for parts, unfortunately. But at least it was fun to try. I mean, I don't think this is really, well, I don't think anyone on YouTube really cares about PlayStation 1 controllers. I mean, it's old technology, obviously, but it would have been nice to get it to work. But yeah, unfortunately, it is what it is. Yeah, we failed, or I failed. I will take the L on this. And yeah, I guess hopefully it still makes for a interesting video. I want to thank you for watching, and if you have any recommendations on what might be going on with this controller, you can leave it down below, of course. I mean, I'm willing to do a part 2 on this if there's actually anything new I can try, and otherwise we will end it here. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I will see you in the next video. Have a good day.